you're up 43. And again, if your team cannot defend a 43-point lead, then we got to have a different conversation in that locker room.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J, here with Ashley Nicole Moss. And Ashley, we have some new intro music.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it yet. It took us a second to get adjusted to it. It was kind of sprung on us last minute.
Yeah, I didn't know about it.
And we were very perplexed as to what we were listening to. But here we are. Let us know in the comments how you like it.
Yeah.
And if we should keep it or not.
Yeah, we might have to do like a little, maybe we'll find like a couple tracks and do a little vote.
I don't know if I'm digging on it. That's all.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do a community vote.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But Ashley, I'm so glad to be back with you. I feel like we are both so busy. One of us is on a plane every single day. It seems like, but it's good to be back with you today.
We'll see each other at NABJ though. I'm excited about that.
We are going to be together at NABJ. That is going to be fun. And this is going to be a fun pod because there's so much to talk about in women's sports for sure.
Absolutely. But as a reminder, before we get into everything going on in the world of women's sports, we just want to remind you to follow us on our individual social media platforms, but also the show's platforms as well. They're all listed below. Make sure you are subscribed, notifications turned all the way up. When it comes to our YouTube page, that's where we post previous episodes, special edition, live episodes, full-length interviews, and everything and anything in between. But if you're someone who's out and about because you're always on a plane yourself and you need to listen to the pod, that's okay too. Scan this QR code and wherever you get your podcasts, we will pop up. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. So look, there's no reason to not be tapped in with us right here at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
Yes. Make sure you're tapped in. We had a great episode with one of our favorite guest hosts, Erica Ayala, and we were talking about the potential trades in the WNBA. So if you have not taken a look at that or a listen, make sure you go back and do that. But one of the big trades already happened as we get closer to this trade deadline in the WNBA, and that is DiJonai Carrington is going to has gone already to the Minnesota Lynx. And the whole trade was a huge one that everyone is talking about. DiJonai Carrington is going to the Lynx, and then the Wings get Diamond Miller, Carly Samuelson, and then the 2027 second round draft pick. So that was the full transaction there. I know, Ashley, I have some thoughts about this, but when you saw this trade go down, what were your first initial thoughts?
I think the biggest thing was like, do trades in the WNBA ever stop? Because I am somebody who, I make no secret about this. Obviously, I cover predominantly the NBA and college basketball. And I know with the NBA, there is a deadline for trades and you can't trade after that. And somebody who is still learning the ins and outs of the WNBA and still familiarizing myself with not only the players and the storylines, but also just the inner workings of the league, I was just more taken aback that you could make a trade August 3rd, 2025. Like, I think that was the thing I was surprised by. Emma says the deadline is Thursday. I feel like the deadline, this is the longest deadline I feel like I've ever encountered in my life. How are people still getting traded at this point?
Well, there's a lot of things that go into the trades and the trade deadline, but you also have to realize that a lot of these players are also playing overseas. So there's like that whole thing is in the mix. And I believe that just kind of ended in a lot of ways. So there are a lot of factors in the W schedule that would allow for a longer trade period. But the deadline is this Thursday, so it's going to get crazy. But I, for one, when I saw this trade, I just thought, okay, the Lynx they are the best defensive team in the league in a lot of ways. And then they got even better with DiJonai. I mean, she is a fantastic player on many levels. Yes, she has struggled a bit with the Wings for sure this season, but she was named all defensive first team in 2024 and named most improved player last season. She is a great player. She may have been struggling, but the Lynx, they need as they go into this push to win the championship, they need all the depth that they can get. They are a deep team, but if you can add to that depth, great. And they did that with DiJonai. And then also, and unfortunately, something that we have to talk about too, and we will get to that, is that Fee was injured in the game, or in a game as well. And so
Yeah.
she, you know, when you look at teams and the injuries that are happening on all of these teams, and also the schedule that they have, the more depth you can add, the better. And so with the Lynx, this is a move. I feel like they won the trade right now at the current moment with getting DiJonai. Now, in the future, I think that the Wings added a great pick that they can use to enhance the team that they're building around Paige. But currently, right now, the Wings won this trade for me. I mean, rather, the Lynx won this trade for me.
I think that's a good point to bring up, because we're having two different conversations, right? It's the conversation of a trade that's going to make an immediate impact, and then the benefits of the trade that's going to make a long-term impact. And I think, as incredible as Paige has been in her rookie season, the Wings are very much in a, not a full rebuild. I put them kind of like in a limbo semi-rebuild. It's like a middle of the road, because I do think that they're just a couple of players. When I think of like a full rebuild, I think of like you got to gut your entire roster. And I wouldn't say I put the Wings in that category, but it's very clear that Paige, which a lot of people should have known, because I was seeing some conversations on Twitter that are not abnormal whenever you get a rookie of her caliber to a team. I think people think, and I think they do this in the NBA as well, that one player is going to make a drastic difference and just completely turn around a franchise. And I think it's a lot of pressure to put on rookies, but more importantly, I just think that it's just not feasible when you don't have a roster that can compete with some of the other rosters in the WNBA. And I remember we were doing this with Caitlin, we were doing this with Angel, we were doing this with so many rookies, and it's just a lot of pressure to put on one player who's trying to make that transition themselves. So I was kind of seeing things like, oh, how are the Wings not better? It's because Paige wasn't supposed to be the end all be all. This was just a huge asset, a huge acquisition that you could build around, but it wasn't going to be the only piece to take them to that next level. And I think this trade benefits them in what they're trying to do in the long run. And that's build a team around Paige, get better, and be in a better position next season than they were this season. But when you talk about the Lynx, their trajectory and their timeline is obviously so much different than Dallas's, because we're talking about a team that was in the finals last year. We're talking about a team that does have who I think will win MVP. We're sending her prayers on her, injury. We hope that it's easy breezy to bounce back from. But right now, the MVP, their timeline is drastically different, and you need a player that's going to make an immediate impact.
Yeah, and DiJonai fits right in with that team, not only defensively, because she's a fantastic defensive player, but also just in chemistry. She has played with a lot of these players. She's really close with a lot of the players, with the Lynx players. And I just feel like it is a great fit on all fronts. Also, one thing we're seeing in the league, especially this year, are players that aren't necessarily making an impact on their team, going to other teams and balling out. And I feel like DiJonai is definitely one of those players that I can see that happening. As a role player, somebody coming off the bench and going in and just making significant changes to the game. So really looking forward to seeing how she pans out with the Lynx and what happens. But as we've mentioned, Fee, Napheesa Collier, she was hurt in the game, and with the win over the Aces, with 30 seconds remaining in the third quarter, and the team was up 43 points. And because of this, a lot of people had a lot of things to say, including Cheryl Reeve, because she got a lot of pushback on this. And Cheryl said, I don't think about those things. It's the third quarter of a game on someone else's floor. I don't think the game is over. I don't think like that. She had a sub and she wasn't going to play in the fourth quarter. Sometimes these things happen. I get it. People are going to rail on me, and that's part of sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in. We did what we think was right, and sometimes these things happen. And it's so hard for me when I see a player like Napheesa Collier when you're up by that much, especially when teams are playing so many games, these players need rest. They talked about, all of the things that come along with adding games to a season that is already packed. And then you have a player like Napheesa in, when you're 43 points up, that is hard for me to take when I see something like that. What are your thoughts, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what Cheryl Reeve is saying in the grand scheme of things, and if this were the playoffs, I could possibly make an argument to defend this take, even though I still would lean towards the direction I'm leaning towards now, which is you're up 43 points, you take your player out, period, point blank. And if you're able to give up a 43-point lead that late in the game, then you have bigger issues that you need to address on your team. We're not talking 10, we're not even talking 20, we're not talking 15, we're talking 43 points. And if you remove your star player, your MVP caliber player from that equation, and the rest of the women on the floor are not able to maintain that lead, again, Cheryl Reeve, you have big concerns on your hands. So I cannot get behind with everything that you said in terms of just the strain and just how long the season is. And you're talking about Fee and unrivaled all-star weekend, how short that break is, and now bringing back into these, knowing what this Minnesota team is trying to accomplish, and that's to get back to the finals and hopefully win the whole thing. You take your player out. And I cannot get behind the mindset of, I don't think in terms of underestimating my opponent. You're up 43. And again, if your team cannot defend a 43-point lead, then we got to have a different conversation in that locker room. That was just in my opinion, that was negligence, and that was just not a smart decision by a coach who's a lot better than that.
Well, and in that same vein, when you're at this point in the season and you are looking to win the championship, when you're up by 43 too, it is a great opportunity to put those players in that don't normally get to play so they can get some of that burn. They can work through things, see what they're going to bring to the table and how they can consistently bring some things as you go down that stretch to win a championship. And so that's vital time for them too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just for me. It absolutely is about resting Fee because she needs rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not having a player in when you're that much up. I mean, I think they ended up winning that game by a 53-point margin, which is the second largest in WNBA history and the largest margin of victory for a team on the road. But when you're in that game, you put in those players who need to get out there on the court and just feel some things and work through some things so that they are ready. And that depth is even increased as you move into this point in the season.
We wanted to just present this disclaimer. I have this piece of hair on my forehead, but that's okay. Here we go. While we were filming this episode, towards the very end, Alicia, the breaking news came down about Fee. She will be sidelined for at least 2 weeks with a right ankle sprain, and that is per Kendra Andrews. She was the one to break the news. This seems like they avoided worst case scenario. Obviously, 2 weeks without Fee is still 2 weeks without Fee, but considering how injuries have kind of been happening left and right in this league, you have to be pleased as much as you can be pleased about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you also have to rest and recover. We've seen with other players, I would say most notably probably Caitlin Clark in this season, coming back from an injury too early isn't great either. So it's really important that, Fee rest and recover as much as she can so she's ready for, the playoffs and that championship push.
Absolutely. And we'll be keeping our eyes on the development of this injury. But the benefit for the Minnesota Lynx is that they are a great team, a deep team, and they should be able to hold down the fort while Fee is rehabbing and getting the ample rest that she needs so she can come back full strength and full steam ahead. We're going to switch gears, though, and take it to the pool. And we need to talk about, which is a segment where we get things off our chest. And right now we're talking about, like I said, a little bit of swimming. The World Swimming Championships just wrapped up, and with a little bit of controversy over Canadian swimmer Summer McIntosh. Now, it was an outstanding meet for the teenager who won 4 gold medals, joining Katie Ledecky as the only woman to win that many golds in a single World Championships. But she fell short of matching Michael Phelps' record of 5 gold medals at a single world, with a bronze medal in the 800-meter freestyle, the race in which Katie Ledecky won in an absolute thriller. But McIntosh actually came under a little bit of heat for not immediately shaking Ledecky's hand after the race. Now, she did speak highly of Ledecky after, as well as the second place finisher, Lainey Fallister. This is what she had to say about losing in the 800-meter freestyle. I hate losing more than I like winning. And I think that's a mentality that I carried with myself through my entire career. My hands on the wall first most of the time. The feeling right now is something I never want to feel again. Obviously, that's not even close to what I wanted. Time-wise, place-wise, how I executed the race, nothing. Now, I watched the clip before we got on to the show to record this podcast. You had already seen it. There was an interaction from what I saw, and for people who are interested in it, if you go to the full race video around the 9-minute mark is where you can see the interaction, and I'm using that term very loosely because it wasn't much of an interaction, but that's what that's the time frame that you'll be able to kind of get a visual of what we're discussing right now. There was an interaction between Ledecky and McIntosh that was off camera. You kind of see Ledecky saying something. It looked like she was just having some verbal exchange, nothing, contentious. Just, we don't really know what was being said. We don't know if it was a congratulations. We couldn't really see. There was not a handshake from what I saw. It looked like just a verbal conversation. I think, I'm 50-50 on the concept of shaking hands after you lose. And this is not about this particular instance. I was always taught you have to be a great winner, but you also have to be a great loser. And I think that's a character thing. And I think something about sports, especially when you win, especially when you play them at a young level, that's one of the things that they teach you and they really drive home is sportsmanship. And even if you lose, that's why they make you at the end of the game. If you've ever played basketball, I know you have, for people who are listening, they make you shake up everyone's hand at the line and then you get to celebrate with your team. They do that, I think, in all youth sports. It's something that's kind of engraved in athletes. And I just think that it's a good character trait to have as you continue, whether you play collegiate, professional. And I think that's a lot of the reason why when we see athletes go against that, male or female, it just rubs people the wrong way because it's something we're taught at such a young age to be a good winner and to be a good loser. With that said, though, people are human. And I think that as you grow in the sport and as the stakes become higher, when you're playing peewee football or when you're playing, youth basketball, the stakes aren't an NBA championship or a WNBA championship or a gold. Like, it's stupid stuff, respectfully. You want to win. It means everything to you at that point in your life, but the stakes aren't nearly as high. And I think that it's unrealistic to expect humans to ignore their immediate emotions in that moment and do what's right for the betterment of the people, the young kids watching and things like that. Although in a perfect world, you would expect people to do that, it's also just unrealistic when you talk about humans. People are imperfect. They have emotions. Those emotions sometimes supersede right from wrong. In this situation, it was a much ado about nothing because, one, nobody else shook her hand. The interaction that we saw, again, was off camera. And then Katie Ledecky hopped right out the pool. So it's not like there was a whole line of people that were shaking her hand in the pool and Summer was the odd person out. And now it's like, that's not a good look. Nobody did it. So like my thing is like, why is she under fire for something nobody else did? I can understand the benefit or the desire of wanting your athletes to win with dignity and to lose with dignity as well. But I also think that a little bit of grace needs to be given with that too, because like I said, people are imperfect and humans have emotions. And as the stakes get higher and higher, you have to understand somebody's not trying to just shake the hand of the person that just took away something they've worked their entire life to get, like a championship or a gold medal. So I'm like 50-50 on the whole concept.
Yeah, I think that you definitely should be a good loser as well. I think there are attributes of that that should apply to everyone. But in this specific case, when you look at, and I encourage everyone to look at it. I wish we could
Yeah.
play it, but we can't.
Again, the 9-minute mark for people who are
Yes.
interested in where they can find it.
But in this specific case, what I saw was somebody who was angry or mad at themselves for
Mhm.
not competing at the level that they know that they could compete in.
Mhm.
I didn't see anything malicious on her part. Maybe, and admittedly, I can't say that I've seen a lot of kind of congratulatory things after swimming, but that is just me not consuming that, right?
That was me too,
But
girl. What did I say before when I
yeah,
watched the video? I said, "Do they normally shake hands? It's a pool."
right. And
Like
so, but I just do not remember in any of the meets that I've seen where everybody was just like shaking hands and doing the thing that we talked about
Mhm.
that, kids kind of do
Mhm.
after they win a soccer match or a football game or whatever. So to me, it was somebody who did not compete at the level that they know that they should be, and they were upset at themselves. I can relate to that. I know that I personally, I I would say that I criticize myself more than I would anything else. I always pick
Mhm.
apart everything that I do, which is probably not the healthiest, working
Yeah.
on it. But when you are a competitor, especially at that level, and you know how you can compete, that will come out at times when you do not perform in the way that you know that you should. And so
Mhm.
in this specific case, that is what I saw. I did not see anybody who was malicious or not classy. That word classy being thrown around too. I think that's thrown around with women more than it is anybody else that they should be classy. At the end of the day, women athletes are competitors. They are going to compete and they're going to have certain reactions like every human being, every athlete does. And so it was just,
And
it
also
was
to your
too
point,
much
I
for
think
me.
whenever you see an athlete not shake somebody's hand, it's never about that athlete and it's always about the disappointment and the anger and the frustration within themselves. Like I think that there's this weird group of people who try to associate not shaking someone's hand with like malintent or an underlining issue with the person that just beat them. 9 times out of 10, because yes, there are beefs and things like that in sports. We know that but 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with the person who just beat them and everything to do with like, damn, I could have been better. Like, damn, I should have played better. Like you're angry at yourself.
Yeah.
And because of that, like you almost are like sulking and beating yourself. It's hardly ever to do about the person on the other on the other side of the line. And I hate that people make it about that. And again, I can understand, I think we both can understand the benefit of being a good loser because it's so engraved in what we learn as kids when we play sports. But I just hope that people just give athletes grace and understand we're not playing for ribbons. We're playing for trophies, gold medals, and the stakes are a lot higher. And athletes are just not going to be perfect every time they lose in situations like that.
No, they definitely are not. And, we've definitely seen unsportsmanlike conduct out there, but in this case, that just was not it. So if you guys have seen the video or go watch it and come back, please comment below because we want to hear what you have to say about this because I don't know, it wasn't a lot as far as I'm concerned. But what has been a lot has been the quote unquote, and I'm putting this in quotes, sale of the Connecticut Sun. There was an announcement over the weekend that the Mohegan tribe, which owns the Connecticut Sun, have agreed to a record-breaking sale with the Boston Celtics minority owner, Jeff Pagliuca, that would see the team move to Boston in 2027. But the deal is not done yet, Ashley, and is subject to change with the league approval. And we'll get into that in a second, which would lead to some holdup depending on if the WNBA wants to allow the Sun to be moved to Boston or not. A lot of people are a little confused by this. I was as well. But it seems as though the Boston part of this is really what is holding it up, because teams go through a process when they want expansion or to bring a team back or whatnot. Like any of them, right? Any of the cities that want this, they go through a process of approval with the WNBA. And what the WNBA is saying is that it has not, that relocation part has not been approved. And here's a quote: relocation decisions are made by the WNBA Board of Governors and not by individual teams. This is what the league said in a statement. Similarly, the Mohegan Tribe issued a statement Saturday saying any sales agreement with relocation of the team to a different market would need to be approved by the WNBA and would also be subject to non-disclosure terms. Therefore, we cannot comment on any specifics of who, if anyone, has submitted offers or seeks investment in the Connecticut Sun at this time. So all of this to say that there has been some sort of agreement in this case, but the W was like, hold on, the Boston part, we need to talk about this. It's also important to know that there is
I'm just laughing as a New Yorker that the Boston part is what held them up. I don't blame you, girl.
Of course, you bring it back to New York. It's okay. We know this.
This wouldn't happen if they were trying to move it to New York. I'm just saying.
But there's also another person in the mix. A group led by Mark Lazary is attempting to compete with the Boston group to buy the team and keep it in Connecticut. The bid exceeds $300 million. And the Mohegan Tribe reportedly will cooperate with the league if it forces a sale to an in-state buyer. Now, I also want to bring this to the table. Tarika Foster-Brasby, who we know and love, she's been on this show so many times, a WNBA analyst, and also, obviously she is a sideline reporter for the Sun currently. And we wanted to see what she had to say about this. And I want to read this whole thing. It's kind of long, but I want you guys to hear all of it because it's so important. It's a bittersweet conversation for me. As an analyst, the Mohegan Tribe knows and understands that they are behind the 8 ball when it comes to the player experience, specifically a training facility. So when you hear them say that they are keeping the best interest of the players at heart in exploring a sale, I have to believe that because they are not oblivious to where they are in relation to where other teams are and promises to be at this moment in the evolving WNBA. She goes on to say, I'm a little concerned about how the process is taking place because I'm curious to know why Boston did not place a bid for an expansion team. Granted, I know New England is not that large, so it probably doesn't make sense to split or divide the fan base between Massachusetts and Connecticut and the surrounding states. But I can't help but question why the push for acquiring the team, and if that interest was there from the beginning, why a bid for expansion wasn't placed. At the same time, and in full transparency, I'm also the sideline reporter for the team, so their future affects me personally because it is also my job on the line. There is no guarantee that a relocation to Boston includes me as their reporter. And then the last part, I also live in the state of Connecticut, and I can see the loyalty of this fan base and how important women's basketball is to the state. Would I personally love for them to sell the team to a Connecticut buyer that will relocate the team to a larger city like Hartford, that will allow them to play in a larger venue and add a training facility? 100% would love that. But would I be upset if they moved to Boston? No. The women in that locker room deserve the best. And if a relocation to Boston is what will give them the best, then that is what I'm here for. And that was from Tarika Foster-Brasby. There's so many layers to what she said. Number one, Connecticut, absolutely loves, the Sun loves that team. There are so many devoted fans that have literally raised that team up. As a matter of fact, this team was the first team that was on its own. Like all the other teams that were in the W were connected to NBA teams in some way, shape, or form. And this was the first team to really have a team on its own. And they the Tribe purchased the team for $10 million. They were known as the Orlando Miracle at the time. And in 2003, they relocated it to Connecticut. It was also the first team that a Native American tribe owned in a professional sports franchise. And so people are very passionate about this team. And so keeping them in Connecticut in a location where women's basketball is paramount in a lot of ways, there's so many upsides to that. But also doing right by the players is what is most important here as well. Another thing I want to say, just as somebody who worked for a team for 13 seasons, when something like this happens, it affects so many people. You hear Tarika talking about how she wouldn't know what the positioning of her position with them would be if it were to happen. And so we have to remember, when all of these things happen, when these blockbuster sales happen, that there's so many layers to what is actually going on. And so I just want, that you can't get it right on all fronts, unfortunately, right? Somebody is going to be disappointed. But at the end of the day, I hope that what is not a disappointment is how it propels the WNBA forward, how it treats the players that are in that franchise, and how it just propels women's sports forward in all ways.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually never been to Connecticut, so I can't speak to. I know people think like, you're from New York. Trust me, I never left New York State. I never even been upstate. So like, I'm the wrong person to ask these questions. So I can't speak to what the passion is behind the Connecticut Sun. I can say though, obviously, I believe Tarika completely when she says how passionate that fan base is, obviously living there, working with the team. The unfortunate reality is in situations like this where the W is exploding and continues to grow, everyone's going to want a piece of the pie. And unfortunately, the person with the biggest bank account gets the biggest piece. And that is the gift and the curse of expansion. That is the gift and the curse of a newfound interest in the league as a whole, in the sport as a whole, in these teams and these women, is that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to remain homegrown. And I think that rightfully so and understandably so, there are a lot of WNBA fans who are weary about that, because I think that this league has been in a bubble for a lot of its existence. And in that bubble are people who have been there from the very beginning and are very protective of the teams, the women, the fan base. And for them, the expansion of this league and the explosion of this league means you kind of get further away from that in some way, shape, or form, because things become more corporate. They become they just put on a bigger scale, and with that you lose some of that authenticity that has been the driving force behind a lot of these teams for so long. So I can definitely understand the apprehensiveness behind that. I think that, as a New Yorker, it pains me to say, but Boston is a great sports town. They're a winning sports town. This is a team that has had championships up the yin yang, name the sport, for a lot of their, whether it's basketball, hockey, baseball, football. I mean, this is a city that all they know how to do is win and win championships. So I don't think that moving to Boston in that aspect would be bad for the W, be bad for this team, because they're not going to the middle of nowhere. It's a major market where they love sports. It's a sports town. But I can understand the frustration and the possibility of not being able to keep it where it's always been. This does sound to me, though, I think that the murkiness around this situation kind of sounds like somebody jumped the gun. And when I say that, I mean, a lot of times in situations like this, and I can equate it to when the Minnesota Timberwolves at one point, A-Rod was like, I bought the Timberwolves, and the owner was like, no, you didn't, relax. And then ultimately he ended up becoming the owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that this could have possibly been one of those scenarios where you put it out there to maybe turn off some other teams from upping their bid or upping what they're able to offer, to turn them off so it falls in your hands. Would not be surprised if that were the case. I would not be surprised if this is the last we hear about this situation. But the unfortunate reality, to just wrap this all up, is that as you continue to grow, it becomes less and less homegrown, and it just becomes so massive that you lose that aspect. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that fans are weary of. But that just means that the OG fans got to come out in spades and in crowds to make sure that wherever the Connecticut Sun end up, they know that their OG fan base is still with them.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, right now, with the state of it is, we cannot guarantee that there will be this particular sale, but I know that we can guarantee something in our guarantee of the week presented by AT&T. So, Ashley, this week we need to talk about the WNBA's most improved player and a guarantee that this particular player should be in the conversation. And that is Atlanta's Naz Hillmon. Okay. I don't know if you've been watching all of her highlights that she's been having, but she is balling out on the Atlanta team that is also.
I know Atlanta's been in the news lately. I know that much.
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta is playing some fantastic basketball. But the Dream also has a dream player in Naz Hillmon. In the last 11 games, she's averaged 11.2 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.1 assists on 49.1% shooting from the field. I mean, that is a line, okay? In the July 30th game, Hillmon had a career high 21 points and personal best 5 made three-pointers, including a game-winning triple. Now, listen, this is very important because this is a crazy stat, Ashley. Before this season, Hillmon had just 1 3-pointer in her WNBA career. So when you look at where she is right now, the way that she is playing, and then looking at that, just that stat alone, let alone the rest of them, I mean, you have to put her in the conversation for most improved player of the year.
Yeah, I feel like the Dream are in a sweet spot because they're a team that they're obviously in a major market, but I feel like they've had the benefit of also flying under the radar, if that makes sense, because the expectations weren't always very high. And shout out to our very own Renee Montgomery, absolutely killed what the Dream did this particular off season, and just everything they've been doing behind the scenes to just make this team really be a team that people were constantly talking about. But we have this conversation often, and I sometimes feel like when you don't have the added pressure of having to perform right away, it gives you the freedom to grow at your own pace. And I sometimes think that is the best thing, not only for a team, but for individual players. So this could have been a scenario like that now that the Dream are on a different platform and everybody's talking about that, and everyone's like more tapped into what they're doing and what they're saying and how they're playing, we're now seeing the talent that has always existed, the talent that has had an opportunity to kind of grow out of the spotlight. And because they've had X amount of time to grow out of the spotlight, they are now ready for the spotlight, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited. MIP is probably one of my favorite awards in sports because it just showcases it's not always how you start. It's not always if you're a big name, if you're a high draft pick. It's about what you put in behind the scenes, what you put in each and every day on the court, in the weight room, in the film room. And it just speaks to a mantra that I wholeheartedly believe in, not just in sports, but in life. If you put the work in, the work will reward itself and it'll come back to you full circle. So shout out to Naz. Shout out to everyone who's ever won MIP or been in the running for MIP. This is just an award that I'm a big fan of across the board.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of what Naz is doing this year, what the team is doing, and really what the coach is doing as well. Smesco in his first season is putting the players in the best position to succeed, and it's showing. Like you said, it's showing on all levels, especially for the Dream. But one thing that I thought was amazing and a dream was this amazing interview that you did recently, Ashley.
Yes.
Why don't you
I
tell us
had
about your interview with Jennie
I
Finch?
had a chance to sit down with an absolute legend in the world of softball, excuse me, Olympian Jennie Finch. And not only what she has meant to the sport, but what she's doing to give back to the sport that has meant so much to her. And also just being a mom, juggling it all. We have that conversation often on this show. So I hope everybody enjoys this conversation, enjoys listening to her as someone who's performed at the highest level and what she's kind of doing now to reach back to those who maybe want to follow in her footsteps. I have a very, very special guest with me, softball legend, Jennie Finch. How are you, Jennie? How's your day been?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, not as good as you, though. We have so much to get into in such a small window to do it. We're here to talk about a number of different things, but first, the Jennie Finch Empowerment Award. I absolutely love this. It's in its 7th year, and it helps support girls who play softball and just embrace the importance of leadership and teamwork. Kind of just explain to me what made you want to develop this and how important it is for you to give girls this platform, specifically young girls who play the sport that you have so effortlessly dominated?
There are so many amazing girls out there that are doing all of the things. They're helping raise siblings, they're helping raise
Mhm.
their families, and getting it done in the classroom, doing it on the softball field, getting great grades, aspiring to be something, somebody, and giving back to their community all at the same time. And through MLB Develops, I've been able to meet just so many amazing young women that I would love to have the opportunity to invest in. And that's what Arm & Hammer is doing. It's shining a light on these young women and how they do what they do, how they embrace the adversity that they've been faced with and overcome it. And so it's been such a dream. We've been able to give away over $250,000 in scholarships for these young women, for them to go out there and achieve their dreams, and shine a light on them and just let them know that we see you. And I love the fact that they're nominated, and it's not about how great they are on the softball field, although a lot of them are great softball players, but it's so much more than that. And they're nominated from their coaches from their youth academy, and so they get to see what they do day in and day out. And for so many, they have just embraced everything, and they just continue to be a light in their communities and on the playing field. And so what a dream it's been to be able to be partnered with Arm & Hammer and help them achieve those dreams and get to the next level.
You mentioned Arm & Hammer and the MLB, and the cool thing about this is that the winners are honored at the World Series every single year. I mean, has it been like not only for you to see that happen each and every year, but for the winners of this award to experience just the sport in such a high, just visible platform like that? And how cool is it to be able to put what you're doing on such a huge stage?
It's incredible on so many levels. And to see these young girls' faces light up when their face is on the big screen
Yeah.
is everything. It's everything. And for most of them, they've never had many accolades or have just don't feel seen, but yet every single day they show up and live and play like a champion. And they're just amazing. I mean, some of the stories are remarkable. And so many now are, going after their PhDs and now giving back in those same communities and at the same youth academies. And just to see how they felt being seen, I think it's
Yeah.
just that little extra nudge of, you can do this, keep going. We see you, we support you, we're investing in you, and we believe in you. And so to shine a light on these young ladies and to be able to celebrate them, not only with the scholarship money, but also a trip to the World Series, and for them to get that opportunity with one of their parents or a family member to come along. It's everything. A free trip out there, and
Yeah.
they feel truly like a big leaguer. And
We
so
love free.
yes, absolutely. They walk in with their shoulders back like they own the place, and I love it. That's what it's all about. So thankful for this opportunity.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit because women's sports, I mean, across the board have experienced just an unprecedented growth interest. It's incredible to see. And as somebody who has been in that world and has kind of see it transition and the ebbs and the flow that come with growth. I mean, we're even talking about the new Athletes Unlimited League. It's just across the board, whatever sport you are interested in, whatever sport you are a fan of, whatever sport you play, there has been growth. How cool has it been for you to see that, not only from a fan perspective, but from an athlete's perspective, and knowing what that day to day is like and how it has changed even in such a short amount of time?
You know, growing up, I watched Major League Baseball. We were Dodger fans and Laker fans, and my mom was the sports nut. And so we always had either the Laker game on or the Dodger game on. And so I fell in love through sport with her. And we didn't have any other options. You didn't see female athletes. And I remember my parents cutting out, you know, Marion Jones. And I mean, it couldn't be softball. It was any female athlete that I could get my hands on, that I could hear about, that I could write about, that I could, see achieving great things on the playing field. I wanted to get all the information I could and to hear about them, to learn about them, because you didn't hear about them. You didn't have the platform to find out and to learn and to see women doing what you hope to do. And so to see how far we've come, I mean, walking into a stadium with my daughter and 12,000 fans are there cheering for college softball, and she thinks that's normal, and it is normal. It's her normal. And every night we're able to watch AUSL, the new Athletes Unlimited Softball League, on TV, like just casually turning through the channels. And every once in a while, I'm like, baby, like, this is not normal. Like, we had to fight for this. So you better continue to fight on, and you better appreciate it, and just enjoy it. And part of me, wants her to enjoy it. But the other part of me, like, this is what we fought for this to be normal, and for her to think that she can be anything, and she can see a female doing whatever she hopes to on the softball field, in business, in anything. And so I think it's just been a dream to be a Title IX baby, and to see how far we've come, and the women before us that have fought so hard to get here. We're now living in it and seeing it and thriving in it, and the numbers don't lie. And I think that's what excites me the most. It's not just a charity case. Like, people are showing up. We sold out 20 stadiums of a 26 game season this season with AUSL. So people are showing up, they're investing, they're buying, they're tuning in. Major League Baseball just came on board, and is investing in AUSL. Sephora just came on board. And so
Yeah.
the future's bright, and we couldn't be more thrilled. And I think we exceeded the numbers of the first season above and beyond. It was a dream. And I think it just proves how ready we are for this, and how hungry not only softball is, but just women in sport, and society is, to be able to see women do amazing things on the athletic field.
I love that you say that, because there is, even now, you say numbers don't lie, but even so, there has been a lot of pushback, about what the growth is, how real those numbers are. And I just want you to kind of, for people who maybe don't have kids or don't have women in their family, how impactful do you think it will be for this next generation of athletes, this next generation of young women who are kind of still figuring out what they want to do with their lives, to have this moment where women's sports is on such a huge platform and the stadiums are filled? Just walk everybody through what that does for your, self esteem, what it does for what you think you can accomplish in this world, and why it's so important to continue to build on what we're seeing happen right now.
I think that's what excites me the most, is we didn't get to see it, we just had to dream it. And
Mm.
now young women are seeing it. So I can't imagine what the future holds, because they're seeing it, and there's no cap. There's no cap, because they're growing up and being raised where they can do anything. They see women do it all. And so, to hear sideline reporters and people in the tech world and photographers say that they thought they would have to move over to male sports, but now they're making a living in softball. And to have Olympians, Lisa Fernandez, now a general manager, and getting paid an incredible salary to be a general manager and to lead, and even the coaching staff, the support staff. It goes, for me to be an advisor within Athletes Unlimited, it's endless, and it provides so much more than just the players on the field. And that's what I love the most, is um, it's finally being invested in, and being has the opportunity of using these platforms to showcase what it is we do and how they do it. And these young women are being able to build their own brands, which is really, really exciting. In the past, there's only 15 girls that really could go on and play softball, and that was on the Olympic team. And now we're having, we had 60 girls this season, and hopefully that will only continue to expand. We're adding 2 more teams for next season. The future's bright.
We love that.
Ashley, it's her normal is what stood out to me the most there.
Yeah.
This is what we fought for this to be normal. I have 2 beautiful goddaughters, Dallas and Sage, and Sage is a little young yet. We don't know if she's going to play sports, and she doesn't have to, right? But Dallas does play softball currently right now, and she is amazing. I mean, I'm biased.
Yeah.
But she's amazing. She already has her first piece of merch that she put out. It's an awesome Dallas shirt. She's going into these, ballpark. She's going to these softball parks, and she's looking at all of these sellouts like she was just talking about. She's seeing just this like fandom for softball, and she really doesn't know any different. She doesn't, she thinks the sky is the limit, and it is for her, right?
Yeah.
I played Division I basketball for the Big West Conference a while ago, and we would play in front of like 10, 12 people, and they were boosters, So to see that this is something that is becoming the normal, that is her normal, it's a beautiful thing to witness. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and I love that my goddaughters are going to think that it's normal and not know any different because of the movement of women's sports and softball. So I love that interview on every level.
I feel like that with women in sports across the board, because I was at a panel in LA and a bunch of girls had come up to me after I was done. It was me, Malika Andrews on this panel, and it just made me realize how in such a short amount of time, their reality as an aspiring journalist is so different than what mine was. There's so many more Black women, women of color, women wearing their natural hair in this industry than there was when I was, in college or in high school, figuring out, how I was going to break into this industry. And for, me, yourself, so many of us to kind of be part of that new normal for this next generation is so dope, because I remember how difficult it was to find women that we could relate to on television because there weren't many of us. And now it's just, there's so much more diversity in this industry, whether you're behind the camera, in front of the camera. Again, we have a long way to go, but just thinking about how it was 10 years ago when I was, going through school and getting my degree versus how the young women in that position now, the role models they have and the people that they can say, I want a career like that. And she looks like me and she kind of looks like my sister. And to have that for them is so cool because we didn't have it. And I think that sometimes when you hear those things, it's hard to see the growth when you're in it. I feel like sometimes, because you're just constantly grinding and hustling and moving and grooving and doing things. But I think it's when you hear things like that, or, things that were told to me at the panel, that you realize like, oh, this is a new normal for the next generation. And like, I was part, you were part, we were part of making this a new normal. And like, that's dope because y'all won't have to struggle as much as like we did to like get into this industry. And I think that's just really cool when you like take it, when you absorb it and you just take a step back. I think that's a really dope thing to hear and to just come to the realization too. Like, it's a little bit easier for y'all because like we did it. And like now it's up to you guys when like we're, the OGs in the game, like for y'all to do it for the next generation. So I just think that the women in sports in general across the board, whether you're playing, commentating, wherever you find yourself in this industry is, we've made some serious strides. And I think it's really cool to hear that and just kind of take a moment to reflect on that. So shout out to everyone doing their big one, wherever you find yourself in this industry, because it's been a long time coming, but we here. So we are here.
women in sports certainly have a lot to celebrate about where we're at. And a woman in sport that has a lot to celebrate is Trinity Rodman, because she has come back to the game after 114 days out with a back injury. She made her return to soccer on Sunday, scoring the game winner for the Washington Spirit after 4 months, literally, of just building up. When you're injured, you are working tirelessly every day to get your body back to where it can
Absolutely.
be. And she had some limited appearances for the club and obviously the country, but by and large, she was coming back from that injury, and she came back in a major way with that game winner. She discussed her emotions upon her return. She said that, I've been crying. I was just thinking about, it was a big moment. There were a lot of tears. Of going through the injury, and then just a lot of unknowns. So being back, knowing that I'm back for real and that the problem's fixed, and now I can just be back and work on the things I need to and kind of just get my groove back. So there was also a quote that was going around that she just, was very emotional upon her return, as she should be. And there were some people, I just have to mention this because it just blows me away. During her recovery and injury recovery, as she was coming back, she supported her boyfriend, tennis star Ben Shelton, at some various tournaments that he was in. And people criticized her for it, saying that she should, be getting ready to come back and be doing everything that she could to come back, which is crazy to me, when literally she was sitting in the stands supporting him, for a moment in a day, and people had something to say.
I want people to realize that it's drastically different when you have any type of injury from sitting down and observing a sport, going to dinner, wherever the case may be that you are sitting down, and actually playing a sport. Like it's you can do things, you can live life when you are rehabbing an injury. You just can't do physical activity. Watching your boyfriend's tennis match requires zero energy on your part. You're not out there playing. You're not out there, being the ball girl. You're literally a commentator, just enjoying your surroundings in a seat, stationary, not moving. So everybody just needs to mind their business. That's my 2
Yeah.
cents.
She said in an Instagram post, "Yes, I'm grinding almost every day in PT to get back on the field. No, I'm not just being a wag and vacationing. Thank you." And
What's
one
wrong
of
with
the
being a
things,
wag and vacationing?
right, well, there's nothing wrong. But also, one of the things in coming back from injury, yes, you're getting PT, but you're also resting. If she wants to sit and watch her boyfriend in a match and support him, she can. She's a human being as
She's
well as a
literally
player.
sitting down, emphasis on the word sitting.
My
So
goodness
just
gracious.
want people to understand there's a difference between sitting and playing soccer. While you guys marinate on that, we are going to end today's podcast. As usual, want to remind you all to follow us on all of our social media channels as listed below. Subscribe, turn those notifications up, all the way up, because the second half of the WNBA season is officially upon us, and there's going to be a lot to discuss. You don't want to miss any of it. And at the end of the show, there will be a QR code that you can scan if you're somebody who needs your hands free. It is summer after all. Maybe you want to watch your boyfriend's tennis match. You just want to listen to us in an AirPod. You can do that as well. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. So there's no reason to not be tapped in with us at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. Bye, y'all.
See you next week.